First, we want to open GarageBand. From here, you need to make sure that you select New Project and click on Podcast because that's what we're going to be making today, and then click on the Choose button. Once there, you need to decide what your podcast is going to be about. For this tutorial, I'm going to make a podcast about DNA. So I'm going to name it DNA, and then I'm going to choose a place to save it to. And I'm just going to save it to my desktop for the time being. And then you need to make sure you click on Create. Now that we've created the file, we can begin working on the actual podcast. The first thing you want to do is pick your voice track. Obviously for me, I'm going to pick the female voice track since my voice is female. From here, I'm going to go down here to the corner and click on this circle with the eye. I'm then going to make sure that the vocals are clicked. And here you can decide what kind of effect you'd like to hear for your vocals. For this particular instance, I'm going to pick no effects because I really don't want any effects to my vocals. I want my vocals to be clean and clear and easy to understand. Now we're ready for the next step. Now we are ready to create the audio portion of the podcast. To do this, we simply go down to the bottom to the red button, which is our record button. Press it and just begin talking. When you're done, press it again and then press the play button to stop the audio track from moving. Let me demonstrate. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It is the genetic material found in cells. It is called a double helix because it looks like a twisted ladder. The rungs are made up of bases, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. These bases have specific base pairings. Adenine always pairs with thymine, and cytosine always pairs with guanine. The DNA base sequences code for specific proteins that determine the characteristics of an organism. Once you are done with your recording, you can press the back button and hit play, and you can listen to your recording to see if you are satisfied with it. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It is the genetic material found in cells. It is called a double helix because it looks like a twisted ladder. The rungs are made up of bases, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. These bases have specific base pairings. Adenine always pairs with thymine, and cytosine always pairs with guanine. The DNA base sequences code for specific proteins that determine the characteristics of an organism. So now you're satisfied with what you've said and you're happy with how it sounds, but there's some extraneous noises in your track that you want to get rid of. Easy fix. We come down to the audio region, and you want to make sure that this little symbol down here is clicked on, and then we're going to highlight the sections that we would like to get rid of. Once highlighted, just click delete, and now it's gone. So anywhere that you might think you have a section that you don't want to have in there, you just highlight and click, as I'm demonstrating. This gets rid of a lot of the pauses and taking in of air that you typically do when talking. Now that you've gotten the audio all cleaned up, you need to decide whether or not you're going to add artwork to your podcast. If you want to just leave it as an audio podcast, that's fine. You go up here to share, and you click on share and you save it to whatever program you need to save it to. Otherwise, you can add artwork, which I'm going to show you how to do now. I'm going to add some pictures of DNA and the different parts of the DNA to my podcast to make it a little more interesting. So I'm going to go over here in my photos, and you get to that by clicking this button down here. And I set up a photo album in my photos that just deal with DNA. So I'm going to start clicking and dragging the artwork up to the podcast area. And then I'm just going to keep adding some pictures. Now that you've got your pictures pulled in, you need to adjust them so they fit with what your audio is about. So go ahead and play the audio while you're trying to figure out where you want your pictures to go. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It is the genetic material found in cells. It is called a double helix because it looks like a Okay, so based on that information that I just started looking at, I need to adjust my first two pictures up here. So I'm going to shorten this one and move it this way so it corresponds to where I start talking about the DNA as looking like a ladder. And then I'm going to extend this one so it plays for longer. And you're going to do this for all of your pictures until you're satisfied with the way your podcast looks. The last thing you may want to add to your podcast before you share it and save it would be to possibly add a jingle. To do that, you go down here to this little eye icon, and it's going to show you the loop browser. You click on jingles, and then you decide on an effect or the type of jingle. Here I've selected electronic. And you can click on them to test and listen to what you like. Try out a few different ones. Once you've decided on a track that you'd like to include, you're just going to click and drag it into the jingle section. And then you want to make sure that you reduce the volume on that part because you don't want it to overpower your vocals. Click play so you can hear what it sounds like. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It is the genetic material. Okay, clearly I've lowered it too far, so let me put it up a little bit more so we can hear it better. Material found in cells. It is called a double helix because it looks like a twisted ladder. The rungs are made up of bases, adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. Now we've created a fun and interesting podcast, and the little jingle just adds a little extra to it. Once you are satisfied with the way your podcast looks and sounds, it's time to share. Go up to the Share menu and decide where you want to send it to, either to iTunes, iWeb, to your disk, or to a CD. In this instance, I'm going to send it to my iWeb program because I'm in the process of creating a project for my master's program and this would fit in nicely. You need to make sure that you are on the right encoder and the type of quality that you want. For my purposes, this is perfect. And then I'm going to click Share. Now, in iWeb, I have to decide what blog I want to add it to, and I want to add it to my Tech and Project blog. And then I click OK. And as you can see, here it is added, and it is working. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It is the genetic material found in cells. It is called a double helix, and that is how you create a simple podcast.